Good morning, my name is Mike Capuccio. I'm with N.E.T.R Heating and Cooling Systems in North Andover, and today we're going to walk through a residential heating and air conditioning system that basically heats and cools the home, but today we're going to focus on the furnace section of the heating and cooling system. So basically you have two components in the basement of the home. You have the furnace, which sits down low, and the air conditioning coil that sits up high. Alright, so also along with the furnace you can see there's a few things here that are with it. There's some white pipes here. I want to explain to you what these white pipes are. So you have an intake for fresh air that comes in because this is a 98% efficient furnace that we're going to service today. So we have fresh air that comes in and then stale air that gets exhausted. So this does not go into any type of a chimney. There's two white PVC pipes outside that one is pulling in fresh air and one is exhausting the fumes. Over to the left here, we have another white pipe, which is our drain line. It's our condensate line for our air conditioning. We're not going to get into that today, but that's where our air conditioning condensate would go. If you look real close down the bottom here, there's another condensate line. And that condensate line is for the condensation that the furnace produces in the wintertime. So this will produce condensation in the wintertime too, that will go into a condensate pump that we'll explain later on. So I want to get into the basics of a basic maintenance on a heating furnace in a home. So let's take a look in here. Let's open this up first. There's a couple of notches here. I'm going to put this knee pad under my knee because I'm an old guy and my knees hurt every now and then. So got two pieces that come off. There's one top part, one bottom part. On the bottom part of the furnace, this is where our legends are. This is basically our whole drawing of our unit. Our electrical wiring diagrams gives us our faults and flash codes, tells us a little bit about the gas valve, tells us a little bit about the furnace, gives us our model number and everything. So we want to hold on to this because we're going to probably need this if we're going to do any troubleshooting. So this is the legend that they call it. It's wiring schematics, wiring diagrams, and fault codes. Okay, so I'll put that over there. Okay, so I'm going to walk through some of the components with you here that are very basic of a gas furnace. Okay, so first off, we've got the air filter that's over here. Part of the maintenance, I'm going to take it out, make sure it's clean. This filter's a little bit dirty. We're going to replace this filter after we're done, so you can see that that filter does have a lot of dust and dirt on it. So we'll put that over there. But when you do take the air filter out, this does give you access to look behind here. There's an actual blower wheel behind here, and you can't really see it, but if you look in from here, you can see there's an actual wheel there, and that's what causes the air to come out of the vents upstairs. So that's your blower wheel. That's usually always in the bottom section of the furnace right here. You have a control board here, which this is a communicating furnace. It doesn't have basic wires on a thermostat upstairs. That this is what's called communicating. It goes to a 3-wire system versus a 5-wire system. I'm not going to get totally into that, but you can see here's the brains of the system right here. This is the actual test mode. You can see what fault codes are going on inside of your furnace. This will actually, we can run a test mode with this too. So this is where you enter everything in, and I can see right now it's showing my model and serial number of the piece of equipment. So with American Standard furnaces, you can see that it's showing all that in there. Next is we've got two pressure switches. The pressure switches work in conjunction with the draft induced motor. So this motor right here is what's pulling in and exhausting the fresh air and the stale air to the outside. Gas valve is right here. This is where the gas comes in, and you can see there's all these pressure hoses here because this needs to sense that this motor is actually working, creating an intake and a draft. Above here, we've got the flue box. This is where the fire actually takes place, inside of here. So I'm going to pop this cover off here and show you what's inside of here. This is where the actual flames take place, and this is how it fires off, and this is where the gas is actually coming into the furnace right here and doing what it needs to do to heat the home. So this needs to be running in conjunction with this, and you can see as part of the maintenance here, the burner box. You can see this burner box is very, very dirty. So part of this maintenance is I'm going to clean out this box right here. So I've got my shop vac over here, and I'm going to clean out this box right now. Just going to blow it out. nice and clean now. So everything is clean in here now. And basically what I can do now is I can run a test on this furnace and make sure that everything is working. So we can put the unit right into test mode right here. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So we're going to go to the indoor unit test. So we're going to hit yes. We want to test it. Are you sure you want to test it? Yes. And we just heard a click. And what I'm hearing is, I can hear that my indoor fan has come on. And now I can see my draft induced motor has come on right now. So I'm going to check the amperage of this as part of the maintenance. Make sure that's drawing what it should. It's drawing 0.60 amps. Now this is a variable speed furnace, so draft induced motor speeds up and slows down. Indoor unit speeds up and slows down. And you can see inside here now that the glow is on, and the furnace, the burners actually just lit off, because we're running through a test right now, and I can see those burners are on. They're burning nice and blue. So that tells me that my hot surface igniter worked. I could see that that glowed, and it opened up the gas valve and it let everything go. So I can see right now that everything seems to be working good. I don't hear any noises or motors from my motor here that's causing my draft. That's on. My pressure switches have been proofed. Everything is fine with that. There is a little rollout switch right here too that has a little temp sensor on it right here. So if any of the flames ever backed out of here, this would trip off and go off. So that's part of a service item that's sitting there. So again, gas comes in here, and you can see stage 1 is testing. It's telling me that the first stage of the heat is fine. We don't have any fault codes. You've just heard now it ramped up a little more. So it's gone into second stage. It's in stage 2. My vent motor has sped up. My fans have shut off, and it's just gone through its test. You can hear the indoor fan is running. It's cooling things off right now inside of there, and then it's going to shut off. So my next spot is I can check my fan. I check my amperage on my fan. It's drawing 1.0, 1.2. I can see that the fan is speeding up a little more. As it speeds up, my amperage goes up because it is a variable speed motor that's in there. You can see it's getting higher. The higher it gets, the faster the fan runs. It's on high right now, and it's pretty much finished. It's back to the serial number and model number, so I know that my test is now over. The next part of this is for the maintenance. I'm gonna show you a little bit over here. There's a condensate pump that I told you. This is an item that needs to be serviced. So this is over here, and this is where all the drains come into. So I'm gonna take this out. I'm gonna pop this apart, and I'm gonna pull out the actual pan. If I can get this out. And you can see this is where everything lives. And that's a high maintenance item when you're doing maintenance, because this is what gets caught in your pump, and this is what you're going to end up with. That's going to kill the life of your pump, everything that's inside of this. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to clean that right now. So you can see I've cleaned out this pump now. The base of it's all nice and clean. And I'm going to put this back together and put the condensate pump back in there, because this is where all your water flows into. All your drains and everything are coming into this. So this is a serviceable item. Once a year, this should be cleaned. So that's all clean now and put back together. You can see there's also a safety circuit in here, these 2 wires that go to this. There's an actual float in here, so if that pump was ever to fail, that would shut the system off as well. So it's pretty much all that goes into the maintenance side of it. You know, you can also check your check your blow wheel, make sure it's clean. I looked at that earlier. All of the scoops in it are nice and clean. This furnace is not that old. This furnace is about 5 years old, so you can see burner box is nice and clean. You know, hot surface igniter was working, vent motor was working, pressure switches were fine. So I'm going to put this back together. Okay, so on this end I've got the old filter, and this end I've got the new filter. So you can see the difference in the cleanliness. Sometimes you don't think a filter is actually dirty when you first look at it, but when you look at a new one, how white it is, and you look at that one, how black it is, it does show you what's being taken out of the air. There's one thing I want to show you that's important when you replace a filter on a furnace, is there's an airflow item. There's a little arrow right here that says airflow. And that's the way that you want the air to come into the filter. So this is your return vent. All right, everything on your filter, on your furnace, is right here on the right side. This is where the air comes into the furnace, and this is where the air gets exhausted that goes upstairs. So where the air is coming in this way, I want to put the actual furnace like this, so this is the flow of the air coming in. So that just kind of goes, there's a little track in here. You can see it just kind of slides in, and that's where that ends up at that point right there. Okay, so some of the common problems that we see with a gas furnace are the actual draft induced motor. So when the inducer motor is not turning, and it can't bring in fresh air, and it can't exhaust the stale air from the firebox, it's going to go out on a fault code. So on this board right here, you can see this little green LED light that's lit up, and that's telling me that everything's good. When you would have error codes, there would be flash code. You'd have flashing codes in here, and this is where we'd revert to the legend and see what the flash codes were and what the actual fault was. If it leads into the motor, you can check the motor. A lot of other things that sometimes happen with this is the motor is actually turning, but one of the flue vents might be clogged. Birds' nests, squirrels, snow, ice, things like that that can happen. And when that happens, there's also another switch up in here. If the motor was to work, but it couldn't exhaust it, there's a rollout switch here that would get too hot, and that would trip out. This can also fail too. It's a switch that just turns on and off. So the pressure switches, the motor, and the rollout switch all kind of run in conjunction to what is the safety side of this for the flame. So if a motor doesn't work, it'll fail on this. If this motor also needs to be proofed with pressure. It needs to see that the motor's turning. Also up in the back here, this is a very common one, is this what's called a hot surface igniter. You can see there's little two black and white wires that go up, and it's like a little glow stick. It glows red when the gas valve says, yes, I need heating and cooling. I need heating. Come on, please get the flames to light. So that gets very, very red, opens up the gas valve, and allows the gas to ignite when it's on the hot surface igniter. Hot surface igniter is a very common part that fails a lot. So it's really not serviceable. It either is good or bad. You can see it glow when the thing does go on to ignite. And then you have your blower motor down in here that very rarely, it's 10-15 year motor that usually works. So there's not a lot to it from a service side of it. You've just got the blower motor, the draft induced motor, the two pressure switches, the gas valve, and the hot surface igniter. There's not really a lot to a gas furnace. So with gas furnaces for maintenance, people ask me a lot of times, how often should I do this? I highly recommend beginning of the heating season, early fall. That's when you want to make sure with the first time you turn this on that everything is going to come on and everything's going to work. You want to make sure that, like we went through earlier, filters are clean, everything is working properly. So I would highly recommend, like I said, one time per year. Make sure everything's working right with that. And on the cooling side, again, which sits above it, you can't do one without the other. I would do cooling in the spring before you turn your cooling on, because that's when you're going to find your biggest problems too with your cooling, is when drains are clogged or there's no refrigerant in the unit. We did not get into that in this video, but we'll get into that in some other videos at a later time. But cooling, springtime, heating in the fall, one time per year. And we can do that for you. We have regularly scheduled maintenance plans where we can come out one time per year, 2 times per year, however you want to do it, but I highly recommend spring and fall. I hope now you can understand the importance of why you would want to do maintenance on your furnace and on your air conditioning system by what I've showed you today. just understanding that, your filter is clean, that all these components are working properly that could, possibly cause a safety problem in your home. Again, looking at the condensate pumps and the dirt and the sludge that builds up in those, a lot of times these little simple maintenance items can turn into hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars in repairs when you have water leaks. So don't neglect it because you have a 98% furnace that you still need maintenance. Just look at that pump I showed you today. Just, that pump not being cleaned on a regular basis can cause a lot of problems that can cost you a lot more money than $139 for a fall tune-up.